Happy ReZero Day, everyone. This episode was not what I expected it to be, but in a moment of post-nut clarity, I realized it was really the best episode of the second core. The fight scene was like less than a minute long, but the animation was so good I didn't even notice. I found it funny how Frederica dropped Otto almost as fast as I dropped The Promised Neverland Season 2. And for some reason, Emilia sounded way cuter this episode than ever before.
おはようございます。私の言いたいことは言いました。あとは若いお二人に任せてどうぞ。
Before I talk about the new episode, this video is sponsored by TACFam. Truly a god-tier game. Buy it today and use the fucking promo code NUT for 97 extra months, totally free. I'm just joking, guys. TACFam doesn't exist, and let's be honest, nobody would actually sponsor me at this point. I think reviewing hentai might have permanently demonetized my entire existence, but whatever, this episode was a 10 out of 10, and that's all that matters. To be honest though, at first, I was a bit conflicted about this episode, because I thought it was a brilliant adaptation of the source material, but I could also understand the criticism. There's a lot of action happening in ReZero right now, and this episode didn't really have much progression outside of Emilia's trial. But I think the main issue is that people don't want to wait another week to find out what happened. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the criticism would disappear if we could just binge the rest of the season instead of watching it weekly. Personally, I would have allocated a bit more time to Garfiel and Elsa, especially after last week's cliffhanger hyped up their fight. The short bit of action we did get was excellent, but there wasn't any actual progress in terms of the fight. And the scene ended with literally the same cliffhanger as last week. Don't get me wrong though, it was really good animation, and that was a really lucky wall. But there were a few details cut from the novel that could have made it significantly better. For example, when Garfiel had the knife in his mouth, instead of it just randomly disappearing like Echidna's eyes, he was supposed to bite down and shatter it with his teeth. It would have been such an iconic visual, plus it would have reminded us how strong he is. Fun fact, as a kid, Garfiel copied the combat style of Reinhardt's ancestor. He learned about it in a book he read, and then spent the rest of his childhood in a training arc which helped him become the badass he is today. So for Elsa to hold her ground was very impressive, and the longer the fight went on, the more Garfiel began to respect her. Elsa has some pretty crazy health regen, but let's not forget that Garfiel has a trump card too. If he transforms, he might be able to win the fight. Every second of their battle was so crucial that even blinking would have been fatal for either party. Although, maybe not Elsa, because what Garfiel does to her is definitely my definition of fatal. A normal human's face would have been literally deleted, but I guess Elsa's beauty was just too powerful. Instead of being horribly disfigured, Elsa's face completely healed until there wasn't even a scratch on it. But this isn't Redo of Healer. In ReZero, it could take hours to heal that kind of injury, and Garfiel understood that. As we saw in Season 2, Episode 11, he's able to use healing magic himself, so he can easily tell that Elsa's not a human. The speed of which her body regenerates appears to defy the laws of magic. I mean, even Felix wouldn't be able to heal someone that quickly unless he's healing away their erectile dysfunction. But there was some cut dialogue from the web novel that I would have liked to see. For example, Garfiel even goes as far as calling Elsa a witch and a vampire. And I couldn't tell if he was insulting her again or theory crafting, but she didn't really deny either claim. Personally, I haven't seen any convincing arguments detailing how Elsa could possibly be a witch, because there aren't any sins left. We already unlocked all 9 witches including Hector, almost all of whom died 400 years ago, and we didn't get any new witches after that. All their successors were called archbishops. But a lot of you in the last video's comment section theorized that Elsa is using an authority. Assuming you guys are correct, lust would probably make the most sense because Elsa is clearly getting turned on every time she takes damage, not to mention lust is also what I feel whenever I look at her. Another option that would make sense to me is wrath. We got to see Minerva use her authority of wrath to heal Subaru. So if Elsa is the Archbishop of Wrath, her quick regeneration could be the result of an authority similar to Minerva's. The only problem with these theories is the fact that Elsa hasn't shown any signs of being affiliated with the witch cult. So far, every witch and every archbishop we've met have gone out of their way to announce their titles, but when Elsa does it, she's just the Bowl Hunter, nothing more. Even Reinhardt identified her the same way, so if she was an archbishop, he probably would have mentioned it. But let me know what you guys think. Is Elsa an archbishop, or is she a witch? Could she be a vampire? Or maybe she's a werewolf? Alright, it's probably not that last one, but I will become a furry if I have to. Subaru was so confident he'd be able to get Beatrice out of the library, but he ended up failing miserably. He did make a good point though. What's the worst that could happen if Beatrice breaks her contract? If she's going to die anyway, she might as well try to break it just to see what happens. But ultimately, Subaru wasn't able to convince her to leave the library, which means the mansion's difficulty has gone up a lot, especially after the debut of Rock Piggy, a giant hippo with human teeth and human vocal cords. Did anyone else find these little rat bats kind of adorable? I think Subaru should really take one back with him as a pet. I should clarify that the Guiltylowe is supposed to be a boss-level assassin-type Mabeast that hunts with stealth, and one of the things that makes it unique from other Mabeasts is how it's intelligent enough not to make loud noises for no reason. So I don't really know why it roared at the top of its lungs, but at least it sounded better than the hippo. Emilia's trial was literally the happiest thing we've seen all season, yet... Alright, yeah, I cried, okay? It reminded me a lot of Subaru's first trial, which also made me cry. Fuck. It's kind of embarrassing how often the show makes me cry. Emilia enjoyed her peaceful day with Juice and Fortuna, but deep down, she knew that none of it was canon. This trial was very uneventful compared to the rest of the episode, but it was the highlight by far. Every single shot was so beautiful. For a second, I thought it was season 1. We also achieved the pinnacle of cuteness thanks to Emilia's voice actor. Even if it's only for this one episode, I'm sorry Echidna, but Emilia was best girl. Speaking of rare occurrences, I also thought this part was better than the source material. I would have liked a bit more Dona at the end, but as a whole, this trial far exceeded everything I hoped it would be. And in case you're wondering why Echidna was crying, don't worry, I am too. If I had to guess, it's partially because Emilia wasn't supposed to pass the trials, according to the Book of Wisdom. Remember that Roswaal's Gospel tells Echidna's prediction for the future, so it's only natural for her to grow irritated upon realizing the timeline has diverged from her prophecy. But that's just icing on the cake, because this episode also revealed the extent to which Echidna absolutely despises Emilia. I find this dynamic interesting because once again, Echidna is the most intelligent character in ReZero who also has the ability to predict the future, so if she hates someone, there's probably a good reason for it. As we know, a lot of racist people hate Emilia simply because she's a half-elf. But if Echidna was racist, she probably wouldn't have founded the Sanctuary. So that leaves her with only one reason she could possibly hate Emilia. Echidna thinks Rem is better. I never imagined a waifu herself would participate in waifu wars, but I guess anything's possible in 2021. On a serious note, she did have to watch Emilia kissing Subaru, so maybe she got jealous. I think it's probably something a lot deeper and more personal that won't be revealed until much later in the story, because Echidna doesn't seem fond of Satella either, so I'd be willing to bet her hatred for Emilia is closely related to that. There were a few big changes though. In the web novel, Echidna had a lot more dialogue, and she told Emilia there were exactly 3 people she truly hates in the world. I'm assuming Emilia and Satella were 2 of those, unless they count as 1, I don't know. But I thought the third person was probably the dragon. My only evidence is the fact that Roswaal wants to kill the dragon. I mean, think about it. Roswaal admits that Echidna is the only thing he cares about, so it's unlikely that he wants to kill the dragon for personal gain. He's most likely just following what he read in his gospel. And if the gospel told him to kill the dragon, that means Echidna told him to kill the dragon. I don't know why Echidna wants to kill the dragon, but hopefully she's got enough resin to claim the rewards. This episode also highlighted the theme of acceptance. Earlier this arc, Subaru struggled with accepting Emilia for who she is, while Emilia struggled with accepting herself and her past. Garfiel had a similar issue, but after he stopped rejecting his past, he was able to move forward. The reason Subaru couldn't pass his second trial was his failure to accept the possibility that the unthinkable present could have existed. And in comparison to what he went through, Emilia's trial felt like it was set to the lowest possible difficulty. But that's because her objective was different. Accepting the impossible happiness she witnessed in the trial would have been easy, but Emilia had to reject it instead, choosing reality over a dream. So although acceptance is the main theme of this arc, in some cases the inverse, rejection, is just as important. Beatrice has already accepted herself, and that's exactly what the problem is. Echidna gave Beatrice the sole duty of storing knowledge in a library, exactly like a book. To Echidna, there was no difference, but as we know, books don't feel emotions and they don't experience loneliness. Yet Beatrice accepted her purpose of being a book, allowing her life to be just as meaningless and empty as the blank pages in her gospel. That's why Subaru came to convince her to reject what she is and change her life's purpose. Instead of letting her accept the miserable fate chosen for her by Echidna, he wants to let Beatrice decide her destiny on her own. Acceptance isn't always the answer, because sometimes it's better to change. Into a maid outfit. Can we just take a second to appreciate this? Elsa would probably be the worst maid ever, but it might be worth it to hire her anyway. Let's all pray for an unthinkable present where ReZero goes anime original and replaces the next 3 episodes with an Elsa redemption arc. Emilia's final trial is something I'm really looking forward to, especially because I have no idea how they're gonna adapt it. I can't wait. These last few episodes are gonna be crazy, and I hope you guys are hyped too. I also hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. I'm pretty close to a milestone I never imagined my channel could reach, so if you want to subscribe too, that would mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching though, keep talking about ReZero, peace out.